Titled The Sunlit Empire: A Journey Across the British Empire. Chapter 1: Dawn of an Empire. Children, gather around. Let me spin you a tale of a time when a single empire stretched across the world, from vast deserts to icy poles. Long, long ago, there was a tiny island nation named Britain. Now you might think, how could such a small place become so powerful? That's the magic of our story. Imagine a time when ships, with billowing white sails, were the fastest way to travel. These ships, built by the British, set out in search of new lands and treasures. But why, you asked? You see, Britain, being a small island, had limited resources. They wanted spices, jewels, and other riches that were not found on their shores. Queen Elizabeth I, a wise and ambitious ruler, supported these sea voyages. Under her reign, brave explorers like Sir Walter Raleigh and Sir Francis Drake set out to discover unknown territories. It was the beginning of what we now call the Age of Exploration. In their journeys, the British found new lands with different people, cultures, and resources. They established trade routes, bringing back exotic goods like tea, silk, and spices. The people of Britain marveled at these treasures from distant lands. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. There were challenges, battles with pirates, and competition with other countries who wanted the same treasures. However, the British were determined, and with every challenge they faced, their desire to expand grew stronger. And so, the small island nation began its journey to become an empire, the likes of which the world had never seen before. The sun was just beginning to rise on this grand empire, shine its light on a realm full of possibilities. Stay tuned, little ones, for the next chapter, where we will see how this empire spread its wings and flew across the world. Chapter 2: Spreading its Wings, the Expansion Era. Are you all comfy? Good. Now, where were we? British Empire, setting its sights far and wide. After the initial voyages, the British hungered for more. They realized that to stay powerful, they had to establish not just trade routes, but also colonies, places they could control and call their own. And so, the expansion era began. Remember the ships we talked about? They started sailing in all directions. To the cold north, they found Canada with its vast forests and icy landscapes. In the south, they discovered the enormous land of Australia, home to creatures like kangaroos and koalas, which the British had never seen before. In the west, they ventured to the Caribbean, finding islands filled with sugar and spices. And to the east, they established colonies in places like Singapore and Hong Kong, key ports that became gateways to the riches of Asia. But it wasn't just about taking. In many places, the British built schools, railways, and introduced their own way of life. English became a language spoken in the furthest corners of the world. However, things weren't always peaceful. There were battles and revolts. Many local people didn't want to be ruled by a nation from far away. They fought to protect their land and traditions. British Empire was growing rapidly, and with growth came both wonder and conflict. The empire was like a giant bird, spreading its wings, soaring to new heights, and casting its shadow over various lands. Chapter 3: The Jewel in the Crown, India. All right, kiddos, as promised, we'll travel today to a land of mystique, a place where palaces, spices, and elephants roam. We're talking about India, often called the jewel in the crown of the British Empire. Many, many years ago, the British set foot in India, not as rulers but as traders. British East India Company, remember this name, started building trading posts. India was like a treasure chest. There were spices like pepper and cardamom, and the shimmering fabrics of silk and cotton. But soon trade wasn't enough. The company wanted control. Slowly, they became rulers of vast lands, using clever politics and sometimes force. Indian kings and queens found themselves either allies or adversaries of these foreign power players. Yet, India wasn't just a land to be ruled. It was a place of learning. British were fascinated by its deep-rooted culture, languages, and ancient scriptures. They built railways, schools, and introduced their system of governance. However, not everything was rosy. Many Indians weren't happy being under foreign rule. There were uprisings and revolutions. Stories of brave Indians fighting for their freedom started to spread. Chapter 4 Lands Beyond the Horizon Notable Territories. Gather around, young explorers. Today, we're going to hop from one corner of the globe to another, visiting the many lands that once wore the crown of the British Empire. Hold on tight, it's going to be a whirlwind. First, imagine a vast land with kangaroos hopping and the sun baking the deserts. Yes, that's Australia. The British started sending ships to this faraway continent initially as a place for prisoners. But soon, it became much more, with cities growing, gold being discovered, and a unique culture developing. From the hot deserts, let's feel the chill of the icy landscapes of Canada. The storyteller continued, his voice tinged with excitement. Tall mountains, thick forests, and long winters. Canada was a wild place. British built forts, traded for, and made treaties with the native people. Now, let's sail to the heart of Africa. Have you heard of the Nile, the world's longest river? Egypt, with its ancient pyramids, became a vital part of the empire. The Suez Canal, a man-made waterway in Egypt, was like a shortcut for ships, making it easier for the British to travel between their territories. And don't forget the sunny islands of the Caribbean with their soft, sandy beaches and blue waters, where the British traded sugar, rum and sadly, also engaged in the trade of enslaved people. British Empire was vast, diverse, and complex, from snowy peaks to scorching deserts, from ancient civilizations to new settlements. The Sunlit Empire touched all, the storyteller exclaimed, setting the stage for the next chapter of their journey. Chapter 5 The Sun That Never Sets, a Global Presence. Children, close your eyes for a moment, began the storyteller. A twinkle in his eye. Imagine a world where, no matter the time of day, the sun is always shining on some part of the British Empire. That's how vast it was. Now, picture a giant globe, spinning slowly. See the sunrise in India? Well, by the time it sets there, it's already rising in the Caribbean. And as it sets in the Caribbean, dawn is breaking over New Zealand. Thus, the sun never truly set on the British Empire. But why? Well, because of its global presence. The empire included territories in every single continent. Except Antarctica, it was a network of trade, culture, and power. In Africa, the British controlled vast lands, trading everything from gold to ivory. They built railways and introduced their own laws and systems. Across the vast Pacific, they reached tiny islands and New Zealand, where they interacted with the Maori people, establishing both conflict and cooperation. In the Middle East, they were drawn by the allure of oil and the strategic importance of the region. This global presence brought with it challenges. There were rebellions, wars, and demands for independence. Yet, there were also periods of peace and instances of learning and exchange. Chapter 6 The Shadows and the Light, the Legacy Left Behind. Gather around, little ones, and let's talk about the two sides of a coin. British Empire, vast and influential, was not just about grand palaces and thrilling adventures. There were also shadows cast by its brilliant sun. In many places, people didn't want to be ruled by the British. They wanted to govern themselves. The storyteller began, a somber note in his voice. There were uprisings, revolts, and battles. Many sacrificed their lives for their homeland. Yet, it wasn't all darkness. British introduced railways, education systems, and modern technologies to many of the lands they occupied. English became a global language, allowing people from different parts of the world to communicate. In India, cricket, a game brought by the British, became a national passion. In Africa, new cities emerged alongside ancient ones. And all across the empire, literature, art, and music flourished, blending local traditions with British influences. The empire also paved the way for global trade and cooperation. The exchange of ideas, cultures, and innovations was unparalleled. But every coin has two sides. Many traditions were suppressed. Local industries suffered, and people were often treated unfairly. Chapter 7 The Setting Sun Decline and Legacy. As the afternoon sun began its descent, casting golden hues upon the land, the storyteller's voice took on a reflective tone. Children, every empire, no matter how grand, sees its sunset. British Empire was no different. After world wars, The cost of maintaining such a vast empire became too much. People in the colonies, inspired by tales of freedom and self-rule, began to demand independence. He painted vivid images with his words. Imagine massive gatherings in India with Mahatma Gandhi at the forefront, urging nonviolent resistance. Picture the proud African nations raising their flags, singing songs of liberation. From the Caribbean islands to the far-off lands of Asia, the cry for freedom echoed. With a twinkle in his eye, the storyteller whispered, "And that, dear ones, is where our tale ends, but where countless others begin." The end. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy the next piece. Please give a like and subscribe. Thank you.